I knew that people kind of despised bankers to begin with, but wow, nobody likes bankers.
It's like you're like the dentist, of the banking.
You have to go.
The financial world, you're like the dentist.
Right. You have to go, but you really don't want to go.
Yeah, like you have to have them, but it freaking sucks. And then a lot of people are like, "Oh, I hate the dentist. I hate the dentist," like because they got a tooth drilled when they were younger and it hurt like crap, and that's all they remember. Me, on the other hand, I never had that problem. I think it's soothing, but I don't think the banker's soothing.
Oh,
dentists are soothing.
I'm doing my damnedest. Hell, I bring you beer.
There is a podcast in Iowa, Farm4Profit was named by they. Fate stirred up a banker near, then quick came an auctioneer. Making profit was their first goal, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Soon may the farmers come to bring us guests and beer and fun. One day when the recording's done, we'll take our mics and go. These formats shook us to our core. With Farm4Fun, you will not snore. The banker set all mics to on, and the mullet of podcasts was born. Soon may the farmers come to bring us guests and beer and fun. One day when the recording's done, we'll take our mics and go. Before we knew, conversations grew. Growing corn even said F you. So won't you join Tenor, Dave, Corey, and crew? Please like, share, review. Soon may the farmers come to bring us guests and beer and fun. One day when the recording's done, we'll take our mics and go.
Oh, man. It's the last Summer Fun episode on the Farm4Profit podcast. This is Tanner Winterhoff.
This is Corey Hillebo.
And this is David Whitaker.
I didn't mean to start off on such a Debbie Downer note, but we've had a bunch of fun this summer putting these, different format, couple of different guests, and definitely a different avenue for our podcast episodes.
I thought we already did the last one. Did we not?
Oh, this is our last one.
Okay, no.
Maybe it's like an encore where
the encore.
Where people just keep coming out and putting more songs on after the musician gets on stage. It's just one more and
Summer
one more.
Can't be over because we haven't had State Fair yet.
One more podcast.
We'll see. Well, this...
more podcast.
There you go. That's your audience?
Says no one.
That's the voice in your head?
Yeah.
We need one more podcast.
We're back slamming beers backstage.
So when is State Fair? Because this is August 15th.
Next Friday.
No.
So this is
now.
This is August 15th. So it is State Fair time.
Fair. We're right during State Fair then.
So summer is over, Dave.
Yeah, well, kids ain't started school, but it's real close.
Next week or
yeah, it's coming right up.
Iowa State kids, you were up there.
Man, we were buying pencils and
my
whole works for our kids.
Well, listeners, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us all summer. We know that your schedule was really busy. Hopefully we get into a good routine. Don't forget to do what we ask every single time. Like, rate, review, share it with your friends and family and neighbors. We continue to appreciate all the effort that you're doing to keep us in the airwaves. Is that what they call this podcast? Is it airwaves?
Yeah.
In your phone?
I would think so. Yeah, it's
Internet data packets.
Everything is airwaves anymore.
Basically, we wouldn't be anything without you. So thank you very much for doing that. We really appreciate that. Also, thank you to Gearinghoff for bringing us our head of the class listener reviews every week. They are brought to you by Gearinghoff because they are head of the class no matter the crop. Premium harvesting heads for all your harvesting needs. Our listener reviews from you guys are exactly what we need to fuel our energy. And if you remember, guys, remember how Dave begged for iTunes reviews?
Yeah, he begged.
On Apple Podcasts?
On his knees.
On his knees. Mm-hmm. Hands in the air, almost in tears. We got a whole bunch. Woo. That's how awesome our listeners are.
Thank you, guys.
Fantastic.
And this is one. I know who it is behind it. But the iTunes username is FarmerDan22 Honest Review. That was his username.
Yeah.
So that means that it's honest, right? If you put honest right in the username?
Yep.
What did he say, Corey?
He said, some people you trust like a wet fart. Not these guys. Awesome show. They keep it real, fun, and educational. Love the guests. Keep them coming.
Thanks, Farmer Dan. Nobody likes trusting wet farts.
So what's the drug that you take when you have diarrhea?
Laxative?
Pepto-Bismol?
No. What the heck is it? I can't think of it. Dang it.
Oh, man.
It's like a little tiny pink pill. It's not Pepto-Bismol or something. Let's Google machine this.
I'm trying to think.
It's like you take it if you're like traveling in another country or whatever, you got to have like a bunch of it because you drink the water or you eat the wrong food or whatever, and all of a sudden you could go from having a good trip to a bad trip real quick.
Bismuth?
Bismuth.
Bismuth.
Bismuth, yeah. That's a metal, isn't it?
Subsaccharic over-the-counter medication for the treatment of diarrhea, gas, upset stomach, indigestion.
There's got to be like a trade name.
It's Pepto-Bismol.
I said that.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Pepto.
Oh, shoot.
Upset
Okay.
stomach,
Dave was
diarrhea.
right. Dave was right.
Pink pill.
Jeez.
Pink.
All right.
We are off
we are
to
the
a great start.
we are the Pepto-Bismol podcast because you can trust us, unlike a wet fart.
But we're also regular. We're also here every single Monday.
Yeah.
So what? We could be like the fiber of the podcast lane? I kind of like being the Mullet of Ag podcast.
We're the Metamucil. The Metamucil.
You can count on us to go number 2.
Oh, that's not what we should be using as our new tagline. Also, thank you. Welcome on board to Estes Concaves for supporting this podcast here pre-harvest. They want to remind you that their concaves are top of the line. They continue to work with their engineers and design to make sure that you basically stop rotor loss, period, Corey.
Mm-hmm. And the quality of the crop coming out in your grain tank, going into your bins, is superb. It's the XPR2 concaves is what they're talking about.
That's right. We'd like partners like this, Dave, where we can put a number to the savings. Like, we are Farm4Profit, and when there is something that we can add to our existing equipment lineup to help us make more profit, that's why it seems to run nice parallel.
Yeah, and my concave should be here like in a week, I would think, and we're going to throw them on and try some really wet corn just to put them through the test.
Oh, so you should have some pretty good results then.
Yeah.
By the next time we get on the mics,
Yep.
or pretty soon at least.
Well, probably, yeah. Depends on when corn hits maturity, probably early September.
Do a case study. See how much you save.
Yeah. Well, that's the plan. I mean, we're writing the check for them, and I can tell you what, if you think you're going to go write a cheap check for something cheap, that's not the case.
Yep. Pay for what you get.
These things are awesome.
Quality
Cool.
stuff. Hopefully they pay for themselves. The models that they've shared with us looks like it will. Remember, they are working to help stop your rotor loss, increasing the profitability on your farm, making sure they take good care of your grain, less damaged grain. We don't want splits.
And all grain one concave, correct?
That's correct. You can do all of it with the one set. So that's EstesPerformanceConcaves.com. So go check them out. Awesome. Corey, do you want to do an intro today? You want to try and throw an intro together on this one?
Today is a very special show because we have no guest.
Oh, my.
We are the guests.
We are.
We are the guests. We've been asked.
We are the champions.
We've been asked to do a show that's more in depth on ourselves, and to say that we actually planned this would be a lie.
Yep.
Would be an absolute lie. We've been wanting to do it, but it's something we've always had in our back pocket because basically there was an emergency with our guests that we had. We're going to have them on in a few weeks.
Yeah.
They couldn't make it today. It was too late to find someone else to throw in last minute. So it's just us today.
As Dave says, this is a pivot.
It is.
And this is what you do in your operation. You always have something planned for when things go awry. So should be a really good show. I'm excited for this one. We've had a couple of examples shared with us, and I know you guys are curious. We don't spend enough time letting you get to know us as hosts.
Yeah. If we were more flexible and could have done it tomorrow or Friday, maybe the guy could have came on with us, but it's hard to schedule podcasts around your banker golf outings and vacations.
Oh, this is what this is going to be. This is going to be a crap on the banker show.
That's what it might be.
Yeah, nothing like hog loads Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday this week that we would have had to go around.
Yeah.
As you guys can tell, we have zero fun together. Dave, do you remember how we met? So this is Tanner and Dave. Do you remember how we met?
I think I was doing an auction at the Story County Fair, and the banks normally come to the fair and help bid on the trophies or the ribbon auction for the kids. I think we met there.
So you use your cards at the fair. They say Whitaker Marketing Group on it, and I had never been there before. This was my first summer working for the bank. Didn't know how this went because the county that I came from, the county that I grew up in, did not auction off premiums. We just got a premium based upon the ribbon that you won. It was a set dollar figure. And the county that I came from before, everything was auctioned off prior. So the same thing. It might have been if you got Grand Champion Market Steer, you just got whatever it sold for pre-fair. So here in Story County, the kids come into the ring afterwards and they auction off their project or their performance, if you want to say that, for the week. So I was at that sale, Dave, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So guess what? You find the guy with the shirt or the hat that matches the logo on my bidder card, and I had to ask you a question. After that, I think pretty sure we set up a lunch, set up something to where we connected, and kind of keep networking after that.
Yeah. Then we started podcast, went to the basement, went to a new building, went to a boardroom, bought a whole bunch more equipment, added a third player named Corey, called it the Mullet Podcast. It was come a long ways.
So let's go that way. How did you and Corey meet? Do you guys remember how you guys met?
I don't really remember. Like, I just remember seeing Dave all over the place on your marketing on social media, and knew he was local and just kind of knew of him.
Your brother was my printer guy in my office
for a very short period of time.
I think you came in with Tanner one day to the podcast, but then I was like, I know that name. You're my printer guy. Wait, no, that's your little brother.
Yeah, sorry for that. And I'm sure he's sorry for that too. Oh, that was very short-lived.
All right, we got to finish the triangle, Corey. Do you remember how we met?
I remember the first time I met you. We were at a farmland auction in Slater, I think. You walked in, you were with, I think you were talking to another farmer or whatever, and I'm just small farmer, I don't deserve much attention, but I remember talking to you after that. I couldn't tell you the piece of ground it was. I think was it between here and Huxley, or Huxley and Slater? On 210, maybe?
I might be having my stories mixed up because I thought it was a land auction in the safe room, and I thought it was a piece of ground that was just south of the Iowa State Farm.
I thought it was at the log cabin there in Slater.
It could be. Man.
Maybe. But
really
not that it really matters. It was an auction.
Right. This is like those conversations with your wives where you're like, oh, I thought I remembered our first kiss. But I guess it wasn't our first kiss.
But honestly, like, that was where we met. We talked. I don't even think we exchanged cards or anything.
I know I left a business card.
You probably
I
left
always
a
leave
business
business
card.
cards.
Yeah.
So you went STF to BTO, huh? Small-time farmer to big-time operator?
Yeah, still.
Just had to have a bank behind you, huh?
Yeah, no. And, well, shoot, we didn't. I mean, nothing ever happened, though, for months or years after that.
I worked years on Corey just to get him to take my phone call.
Yeah. And then he wanted me to become... He wanted to be my banker, and I'm like, well, listen, I got nothing here to bank. Like, I have a savings account and a checking account. I don't do an operating line or anything like that. Like, I'm literally not. I just am an employee. I get a check, and he kept hounding. I'm like, why are you hounding on me? I have nothing to give you, and you'll quit talking to me if once I become once you get me, then you're on to the next.
Yep, that didn't happen. Nope. All those banker stereotypes, which, by the way, I've got a TikTok right now that it's not blowing up, but for my scheme of things has had more views and more comments in a while. And it's about being a banker and kind of showing up. And holy crap, do people not like bankers?
Yep.
I knew that people kind of despised bankers to begin with, but wow, nobody likes bankers.
It's like you're like the dentist of the medical field. Of the banking.
You have to go.
The financial world, you're like the dentist.
Right. You have to go, but you really don't want to go.
Yeah, like you have to have them, but it freaking sucks. And then a lot of people are like, oh, I hate the dentist. Like, because they got a tooth drilled when they were younger and it hurt like crap, and that's all they remember. Me, on the other hand, I never had that problem. I think it's soothing. But I don't think the banker's soothing.
Oh.
Dentists are soothing.
I'm doing my damnedest. Hell, I bring you beer.
Do you remember why I transferred to you as a banker?
Oh, it had to have been my stunning good looks.
Had something to do with an app. So we were moving everything to QuickBooks, and my accountant said you need a bank that has integration with QuickBooks. And the bank that was the hometown bank I was with did not have integration to QuickBooks. And your bank was technologically savvy enough to win my favor.
Yeah, that had absolutely nothing to do with me. That's not my part of the department.
Which is crazy because if you think of like banks, usually they're pretty conservative. Like it's all a bunch of older people kind of making the decisions with all the money and stuff, and they might be dragging their feet to come along to the newer technologies of that kind of stuff.
It is. It's a struggle internally. Like I said, we might have been a little bit more advanced in that point, but there are so many things that I want to do inside the company that either per regulation or per compliance, just for fear and whatnot, don't want to do.
One might have been the podcast.
Yes, that's right.
One might have been the podcast.
Took a while to get it off the ground. I'm glad we got it off the ground, though. Now we're over 2 years into this, still having a lot of fun. So another thing, and I don't know if I've ever heard this story, Dave. How did you get started in auctioneering?
I was going to go that way with you, but I tell you, I just talk a lot.
There's no way.
I think we should take it back. Let's just drill Dave. Let's just make this Dave's section.
Yeah.
Okay, you grew up in Montana, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's get to that.
Okay. So little Dave in Montana. How many siblings?
One.
A sister, correct?
Yep, sister.
And she's in Montana still?
She's still in Montana. She moved to Iowa for about a year, and then she went back to Montana.
Yeah, I realized she didn't like being close to her brother.
Yeah.
Didn't like Iowa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So what'd she do?
She is a general manager at Dollar Tree and a mother of 4 with grown kids now.
Wow.
My parents still live out there.
So she's older than you?
Yep. She's a couple years older than I am.
You are how old?
39. She'd be 41.
You're 39.
Yeah. I'm way older than you guys.
I did not know that. Did you know that?
I did know that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're just a baby, Corey.
I am.
You're the baby of the group. But we're not focusing on Corey right now. Okay, so when did you leave Montana?
I left Montana when I was a freshman in high school. My dad moved to North Dakota. So we moved to North Dakota, my dad was a railroader, civil engineer for the railroad, built bridges. And so he had a job opportunity to go there and then knew he was going to get the division manager if he came back. So kind of a corporate step. We moved to Fargo, North Dakota, Moorhead, Minnesota, and I graduated high school from Moorhead, Minnesota as a Moorhead Spud.
I was going to ask what the mascot was because there's no way it could be Moorhead Trojans or something to go along with that. But they were the Spuds.
The Spuds, potatoes.
So was that the mascot? Was it a potato?
Yeah, it was potato.
Like a cut into potato chips potato or literally just a Spud?
Just a Spud. Just regular old potato.
I'm sure people were fighting over that mascot.
It'd be a pretty cool mascot if you got shot out of a potato can.
Oh, there you go.
Into a big net or something like that.
All right, so we graduated as a Spud. Then what'd you do?
Then I actually decided I wanted to be a ski patrol. So I really wanted to be an architect, and I knew that I was going to have to pay for school.
Whoa, my mind's blown. So you wanted to be an architect. Mm-hmm. Little Dave wanted to be an architect and ski patrol.
And so ski patrol was just my means to an end. I knew I was going to go to school, but my parents probably couldn't afford to pay for the school, needed a job, wanted to go to Montana State University, Bozeman, Big Sky ski resorts there. So I thought, I'm a pretty good skier. I could be a ski patrol on the side and ski bum while I go to school. So I went to paramedic school. And so I actually went to EMTB first to try to get into the ski patrol. And then
So are you like the cop of the mountain? What
I was just
what are you
ask,
doing?
What is ski patrol?
Ski patrol is helping anybody that falls down, is anybody that gets stuck or the skis fall off, or if somebody gets stuck on the lift, you got to get them off the lift. So a lot of rescue stuff.
Oh, you're not looking for drunk skiers, drunk drivers, drunk skiers?
I think you can ski drunk all you want.
Yeah.
All I'm picturing right now is that game Ski Free. Did you guys ever play that as a kid?
Oh, the little abominable mountain guy comes and eats you?
Use the arrow keys on your keyboard to try and get down, or the mouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You run into a tree or you jump over a little, That's what I'm envisioning Dave doing right now, is running away from.
And if you fall down,
Yetis.
the abominable Yeti or whatever comes down and eats you.
Yep.
Is that on like a floppy disk?
I think it just came standard on the computer.
Did it? Okay.
One of those,
Huh. So
Okay.
you didn't get like a snowmobile or anything. You had to ski to help these people.
That was the plan. I never made it there.
Oh.
And so I went to EMT school, and for some reason, at 18 years old, I wanted to work. And while I was in Fargo, I wanted a motorcycle. So my mom said, get a job. I got a job at Hardee's at 14. And I worked there until all through college, everything. So I was like a lifer fast food person. Mm-hmm. And it was good education. But then I thought, I'm going to wanted to be possibly maybe firefighter, rescue, something like that. Moved to Colorado. Moved to Denver for all of 3 days. Took a job with AMR, American Medical Response, and moved out there. They promised me a sign-on bonus, $1,000. Man, I was in the money.
Yep.
And moved out there. My dad helped me. They didn't ask any questions. They loaded up the truck, trailer. We went and looked for an apartment, and we could not find an apartment anywhere that would even meet my income that I made. And my parents were sitting at a Denny's. I remember this, and they said, they said, well, did you do the math on how much you made versus how much you were going to, bring in? And well, no, let's do it on paper. So we did it on a napkin sitting there. And that's the moment I realized I can't make it in Denver, Colorado. Let's do something different.
Wow.
So you didn't even do that job then?
No, I didn't. I had to call them back and say it wasn't going to work because I couldn't find a place to live. I was going to be negative in the hole every month. And so I went back to paramedic school, back to Fargo, and spent the next year in paramedic school. And
So it makes you wonder, like, a company that's in that area, they know obviously how much it costs to live there. How are they paying below, especially for a young single guy? I wish I could sometimes go back and realize the amount of money I had, even when it didn't look like that much or wouldn't look like that much now. But when you don't have kids or a wife or a mortgage or, all that, it's like, $700 in your account, you were rich.
Right. What you had to worry about was rent. Yeah.
Yep.
Your rent payment on the first of the month or whatever it was.
Yep.
And then the rest you could kind of play around with.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, so you're back in
Fargo.
Finished paramedic school.
So finished paramedic school. And
so is that like a regular school or is it pretty much all focused on, and I say regular, like did you have to take social studies or history and math and accounting, or did you have to do, was it really focused on saving lives?
One I went to was really focused on everything you need to know about saving lives. However, you can go get an associate's degree with it.
Got it.
And so you can take the other classes online. So I did and got an associate's degree in paramedicine and then moved back to Montana and got a job on a ski resort as a firefighter paramedic. So I worked with all the ski patrols that were out there and worked on Big Mountain Fire Department. And it was, like you said, as a single guy, bachelor job, you could live at the fire station. So my room, I could stay there full time, rent free.
Yep.
So all I had to do was go down and drink beer if I wanted or go hiking. So I lived about 10 minutes from Glacier National Park. And so we'd just go to the park. We'd hunt, fish. Pretty good bachelor job.
Man, that sounds amazing. Was it all trout fishing, salmon? What
yeah,
is that
a lot
like?
of trout fishing.
Yep.
Oh,
man.
Lake trout too.
Wow.
We'd go Flathead, the whole Flathead Valley in Montana, one of the most gorgeous places on the planet. But while I was in college, I applied. They said as a firefighter, if you want the job and you're willing to move, apply everywhere and you'll get a job. If you just want Ames, Iowa, it might be a while. So I applied anywhere that I could drive within a day. So I applied North Dakota. I flew out to Seattle. And then turn around the same day anywhere I could come back in a day. Well, one was Ames, Iowa.
Really? You can drive to Ames, Iowa in a day?
Take the test, turn around and go back. 6 hours here, take the test, 6 hours back. Yep.
So you applied to Ames, Iowa.
Applied names Iowa. Never been to Iowa a day in my life.
The beautiful state of Iowa.
Yep.
Yeah, what was your initial reaction when you came here?
Since I was from Montana, I like to hunt. And I actually saw Story City, Iowa, a lot of trees. I thought there's got to be some big whitetail there. And I didn't really have, it was flat, of course, from Montana, but I went to North Dakota too. So North Dakota's pretty flat.
Yeah. So you're probably mostly used to mule deer?
Yes.
Yeah. So you wanted the big Iowa whitetail.
Iowa whitetail, yep. I figured, well, I can make that happen.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, that's fine. Okay, so you had applied in Ames,
Yep.
and knowing that you're here just south of Ames now, I assume you got it.
I got the job. So, yep, I applied about 9 different places, got the job in Ames, youngest guy to get hired here. So pretty green, didn't realize it at the time, but at 20, I kept wondering why everybody wouldn't hire me because surely I topped the test or something. Mm-hmm. And so got hired here. It was good. Moved here, got a U-Haul, and brought all my stuff. Had a week to find an apartment, found an apartment. But this job paid twice what I was making in Montana, plus benefits, plus retirement. So like you said, as a single guy, it was like, yeah, this is pretty good. And so really good job. And then, yeah.
And then prime pickings, you're probably sitting on Welch Avenue, on some Friday nights or Thursday. It doesn't matter what night of the week, honestly. It's just you're the guy in uniform and plenty of good looking women walking around.
Yeah, so for listeners, Welch Ave is campus town, downtown campus town for Iowa State University.
Yep, all the bars.
It's one of the reasons I actually came here. When I asked my dad, should I take the job? He's like, well, you might find a wife out there. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. I'd stand next to the fire station window all night long because the gals would just walk by nonstop. So
Once in a while, one would be overserved, and you might have to help.
Yep, that's right.
That's funny. So did it work?
It did. One of the firefighters asked me to take his daughter out. And I'm like, no, I'm not. John, I'm not taking your daughter out. He's like, I'll just go out with her. Just go out with her. And so I went out with his daughter. And she took me to an ice cream social, if you will, party that was after hours type deal, but more
An ice cream social.
Ice cream social.
We need to host that. That's what we should be hosting, is an ice cream social.
Okay.
Went there, and she was definitely the social butterfly. Okay. So she started talking to everybody while I was just sitting there by myself, and met what would be now my wife's roommate, Angie. So good-looking gal, redhead gal. You might know the last name Vetter. So Angie Vetter. Vetter Equipment, if you're in Iowa, would be a name.
No free ads.
So anyways, that's not her dad, but family, same family. So I met her, and she's like, hey, you should come where all the agriculture guys hang out, at the Fox Lounge. So we went to a bar the next night. Come to find out, Angie wasn't old enough to drink, but she hops the fence. Oh, yeah. And she got in. But she sent
Sound familiar, Corey?
She sent her roommate, my future wife, Ann. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So then you and Ann obviously hit it off, and now you have two boys.
Yeah.
No longer a firefighter.
No longer fire. Worked 18 plus years at the fire department, so about 19 total career. And then had two kids in the meantime, built a couple houses in the meantime, got into agriculture. And in the meantime, while I was at the fire department, I talk a lot and I talk fast. Married my wife. She's in the cattle business. Learned a little bit more about agriculture because I lived in Montana but didn't know anything really about agriculture. So married into it, learned it really quick. All about farming, realized that's everything in Iowa is agriculture. And I said, well, I could be an auctioneer. So all the firefighters laughed, but I went to auction school, won that state championship, came back, finished, realized it's a business, started a business, and worked it to where it became a bigger business than the fire department. And so then we decided to retire from the fire department, and my wife and I now own our company and auctioneering real estate firm.
So the auctioneering started almost out of boredom. Maybe a little bit you were curious because of the connection after meeting your wife and getting into agriculture, but it was the time that you had available at the fire department.
It was, yeah. Actually, the bathroom at Station 3, all the guys would laugh because they had really good acoustics in there. So you'd go in there and it's like, all right, I'll go there. Yeah. And you just start, and they're like, we remember hearing you 15 years ago in there, and then you end up retiring.
Probably sounded like me, $1.4862.
Yep.
So what auction school did you go to?
I've been to 3 now. I originally went to Missouri, which was the Harvard of auction schools when you Googled it, and it was in St. Louis, Missouri. Went there, no ambition to start a business, just wanted to talk fast. So all the business stuff I didn't listen to. I just wanted to hear the bid call, talk fast. Yeah.
You wanted to be the guy that someone hired to come be the auctioneer.
Yep.
Gotcha. And then you went to a couple others, and then you're part of an auction school now too, aren't you?
Yep. Got into Worldwide College of Auctioneering, which is in Mason City, Iowa, and went there for their advanced class because I wanted to be better and started competing in contests and started getting more jobs. So I went there, took their advanced class. And then a few years later, there's 2 really good world champion auctioneers that teach at Western College of Auctioneering. And I went out there to take their advanced bid calling class, and the teacher couldn't show up on the last day. Oh. And so the guy who owns the school said, hey, you're a pretty good hand. Could you teach the last day? So I was like, well, I'm paying to be in this class. He's like, I'll reimburse you your money for that. So I actually taught the last day, and that turned into a job, and now I teach at Western College of Auctioneering.
Nice.
Very cool.
Do you think that auctioneering as a career, like, do you need more auctioneers? Are you over auctioneered?
Every Tom, Dick, and Harry has a dad, brother, sister, somebody that thinks they can auction or do the bid call, if you will. Now that the industry's changed into more digital, there's a lot of people in the industry, but you got to be passionate about the industry to be in it. So we get there's, I think the last I know, there's about, just in Iowa alone, there's 3,000 auctioneers just in Iowa. And then you think around the counties, that's a lot of auctioneers. Now, how many people do it full time? Being the chairman of the board for the Auctioneers Association, I'm going to bet there's about 15 guys that do it full time, but 3,000 claim to be auctioneers.
Right. I could see, having gone to a lot of sales as a banker and as a farm kid, just there are auctioneers that you can tell are professional auctioneers. And there's others that have become an auctioneer through the business they work at or been a part of. And it kind of sounds like they're doing it on the side. Mm-hmm. That's not the forte. They're there to make the relationship and put the deal together. The auction chant is more to appease the process of selling the item.
Yep. And I'll say it took 10 years before I made enough money to leave the fire department.
Right.
So if without another job, so I think their washout rate is pretty strong. The people that go to school, last I heard it was about 3% of the people that go to school actually make it to a full-time job.
It's like Navy SEAL stuff there.
Yeah.
So then what's the future for Dave? What does grown-up Dave want to do?
That's a good question. I don't know. So, been entrepreneurial, started some different companies throughout my life. And I've told you guys this, but I'll tell our listeners this too. My perspective on life this last year has changed in what is success. And how do you measure success? So maybe it was climb the corporate ladder. Maybe it was own the company, be the biggest farmer, have the most acres, nicest tractors, etc. And I was very entrepreneurial to do that. What do I need to do to be the next level? What do I need to do? And then I remember at the fire station, there's this guy that Eric, friend of mine, he goes to the fire station and fishes every day. Every day he goes fishing. And so Eric's perspective of what success is how big a fish does he catch tomorrow? And I thought, geez, Eric, get with the program. You got to grow up. You got to do this. But, he might not be too far off. So there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle. And I think that's my future, is maybe not being the next Elon Musk or the next Jeff Bezos and start the next Amazon. But I like looking at what's the next big thing and being entrepreneurial. But now with kids and baseball games and wife and farming and podcasts and lots of stuff, I think we'll try to slow down, which is what nobody says I can do. So I don't know if we'll slow down, but take life as it comes.
I did write down the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stops you made before 20.
Yep.
And that's kind of Dave's personality. Is there's always somebody that you can count on to not be afraid to take on another task.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned what the vision of success is, or what people do for happiness, it reminds me I had a brother-in-law that was running an electrician company, owned it, fine, doing great margins, and it was a lot of stress for lining up the next job, making sure you've got continued work, so on and so forth. Now is extremely happy as a driver for UPS. Mm-hmm. Been driving them for a while now, but his dad had done that, and he knew that at the end of the day, his dad wasn't working. Like when he left UPS, he could go fish. He could go do whatever it was, and then got to meet other people in there that had a happy lifestyle. Success is different for each person, and it's probably different for each of our listeners.
And I think it changes as we age and go through different stages in our life. You look back 5 years ago, and if you could ask yourself then, what your vision of success, it'd be some completely different of what it would be now and in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, and you think, like when I think back to 20, I wanted a job, a career, got a career, and then I wanted a good-looking wife, and then it was kids and house. We need a house. We got to have a house. I mean, everybody's got to have a house, and it's got to be a big house. And then it was nice trucks and boats, and then it was, it moves throughout. Now is it a good retirement, help my parents, future, make sure my kids grow up, so your vision of success definitely changes. Not that you don't want to keep going. My wife always asks me, when's enough's enough? And I said, it's never enough. It's never enough. We're going to keep going, but one guy told me the other day, he said, build a legacy for your kids. And so I worked for a lot of different people and worked for throughout the areas. And so I think I've been down that path, is a lot of different cogs in the wheel to build a legacy for what you leave behind you when you go, I guess. Yeah.
That's Dave Whitaker. That is the farmland guy.
Yeah.
Formerly known as the Iowa land guy.
Yeah. Now we sell farther than Iowa.
Outgrew his own britches. No,
Whitaker Marketing Group gunning up to make another run at some land and estate auctions and
world champion. What's the next competition?
I've won 8 championships, some international.
But you got one coming up, don't you?
I just went to one. And so I went to the International Livestock the International Auctioneers Championship. But I do have one coming up. I'm going to Battle of the Bluegrass in Kentucky. and it's just kind of like a rodeo rope and jackpot. So some of the best, not some, a lot of the best auctioneers in the country are going to go to this. Pays $10,000 though, so if you sign up, you get a good purse at the end of the day.
That's cool.
Well, should we jump to Tanner?
No, I was going to go to Corey.
Oh, okay. That's fine. Bring it.
We'll jump. So, what about little Corey? You've been here in Central Iowa because I know that you've been here all your life because of family farm. So let's start that. Let's do a little family history on you.
Yeah, grew up in Polk City, north of Polk City, Iowa, by Big Creek. You can see the beach from the farm. Well,
really?
You can't anymore because of
trees
overgrowth. But when I grew up, you could see the beach from the farm as lakefront property, pretty much.
So Dave's watching girls through the front window at the fire department, and you're watching girls through the front window of the house.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I can fly my drone down there. I used to hang signs off of my drone and take them down there.
Oh, that's funny.
But no, I grew up there, farmed all my life. Family's farmed all my life. I think I'm fifth generation. I don't know, 1903, I think it says on our hat, something like that. That's kind of bad of me, but without it right in front of me. But
corn, soybeans,
great grandpa. So my great grandpa on my grandma's side, Grandpa Graber, that's where our family farm is now. My great grandpa, actually on my dad's side, great grandpa Carl, came from Norway and had a farm a couple miles north of where we are now.
So was your mom's great grandpa and your dad's great grandpa neighbors then?
Yeah, I mean back then it would have been further, like 2.5, 3 miles, whatever away. So
feel farther
it's
back
not,
then.
Not horse and buggy type, but now that would be considered definitely a neighbor.
Yep.
So sure. Norwegian descent.
Norwegian.
Like most Iowans.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Very Norwegian, like my Kumla and Lefse and Kringla and all that kind of stuff. Coffee.
You have couple siblings.
Yes. Yep. I have an older brother, Jake, and a younger brother, Austin. My older brother, so a lot of people think I'm the oldest, and actually my brother, Jake, is. I think he's 4 years older than me. And I'm 33, so he'd be 37. There may be 37 this fall. But, he's handicapped. So he's got something called Sturge-Weber syndrome. And that's something from birth. Basically affects one side of his brain, and there's different severities from not being able to walk, not being able to talk. He can walk, can't really talk, can do some sign, a little bit of that, but he still lives at home with my parents. My little brother, Austin, I think he's 26, and used to be a printer guy.
Yeah. Yep. Konica.
Konica Minolta, ding, free ad. But he went to Iowa State and worked for Van Wall, and then was just kind of stuck in the mud there being a parts guy, decided he wanted to go do something different, and he definitely did that, and went to Konica, and we were all like, what are you doing? And 2020 happened, and they pretty much laid everyone off that they just hired. And
right, because with COVID, we didn't need to print anything anymore.
Yeah, and so...
Of course not.
So everything went to virtual.
Yeah, now
he was my fourth guy anyway, so they laid a couple off.
Obviously, that printer was having some issues, but and he's booking loads for XPO Logistics now, but we're hoping, if everything goes right, that we'll get him back to the farm maybe this fall.
Cool.
So you went high school in Polk City?
So actually, no, we're North Polk School District, which was 2A at the time, and which would be Polk City, Sheldall, Allman, and Elkhart. And the high school is in Allman, and then one of the middle schools, or whatever, not even middle school, grade schools, was in Polk City. So Polk City would love to have the high school, but
I gotcha.
They're not in the middle.
And then you went to Iowa State, correct?
And then I went to Iowa State. Yep.
So what made you want to pick there?
It just kind of went hand in hand, being in the ag industry, just having something so close. And
as for our listeners, what is that, 30 miles?
Yeah.
20?
Yeah, 25 minutes, yeah.
25 minutes to the north to Ames to Iowa State?
Yep. I actually took classes at DMAC, Des Moines Area Community College, while I was in high school because it was free through the state, and brought in a bunch of credits and did some manufacturing classes, not necessarily ag classes, diesel mechanics and things like that, and brought those in. And so basically when I started Iowa State in fall of 2006, I already had a semester done. pretty much. I graduated in 3.5 years.
What was your major, or what did you want to be?
I went ag studies,
Okay.
which would be called ag slack, which would a lot of people would call. It's basically for someone that doesn't have your mind made up. You could go into ag business, you can go into ag education, you could go into animal science, agronomy, ag system technology. I mean, you can go into anything from that.
Yep.
And that's what I loved about it, because I like doing a little bit of everything. If I had my way when I started, I loved livestock. I loved having cattle and hogs and chickens for FFA and 4-H projects to show at the fair, and love that. But where we're at in Polk County, they pretty much have a moratorium
on any kind of
livestock of any size. So, I don't know, maybe my sophomore year, kind of decided that's not going to be an option if I want to go back and farm there eventually. So I took an agronomy route and picked up an agronomy minor and focused on that. Still took a few animal science classes when I could. So the majors, I guess.
So you're married.
Yep.
And you also have 2 kids.
Yep.
But instead of boys, they're girls.
Yep.
So was Iowa State where you met your wife?
No, not actually. So my wife went to the same high school as me. So met my wife, Rachel, and same church, but we had, was she 28? So we have 5 years difference. So she was younger than me. So didn't really know her through high school and all that. Knew of her. Her brother was in my class, so I knew her family. So graduated with her brother.
Were you friends with her brother?
We didn't hang out, but yeah, we were good. Yeah. I'm like a...
You weren't peeping on his little sister when you were hanging out.
No, we didn't hang out like that, but we were friends. I mean, I feel like I was a chameleon. I still feel like I'm a chameleon. Like I can get along with dang near any type of person. And in high school, I was in band a little bit. I played sports. I could go hang out with FFA kids, and I could get along with every single one of them. So sometimes I feel like that's really, really good, but sometimes I feel like that kind of hurts me, because I can be fine in any situation and never put my foot down. So yeah, I met her not at Iowa State. It was 2010. I graduated 2009, and we were at a party. It was the night before Easter. I remember that.
On Welch Avenue, walking by me.
We were at a barn party at my friend's north of Ankeny.
Barn raising, like the Amish.
Yep, and I remember it was the night before Easter.
Wrong Springer.
and we were playing beer pong and flippy cup and all that kind of stuff out in this barn.
Was this still the time where you still poured the beer in the cups, or did you already graduated to only doing water?
No, I'm pretty sure we're still pouring the beer in the cups. I mean, we weren't the I mean, we definitely...
We can't say that.
We can't say that anymore.
So we were doing all that, and I don't know, she was out there with her friend, and I was like, she's pretty good looking, and started talking to her, and we were playing some music, and then like Lady Gaga came on, and she like...
And that's your jam?
Oh, no, that's her jam. And she was like, I know this whole dance. And I'm like, no, you don't. And, yeah, I don't know. So then my cousin had like crawled up into the rafters of this barn, and I don't know why, but people are like tossing him beers up there, and he's pouring beer from like in the top of this barn. And I'm like, hey, do you want him to pour beer down your throat from up there?
You're like, I know this guy.
And she's like, yeah. And she just gets soaked. I mean, not like a single drop went in her mouth, but just soaked in beer.
And I'm sure that was on accident.
And, it was the night before Easter. I think it was an early Easter, so it was a little chilly too. And so I gave her my jacket, and the rest is history.
Oh, chivalry.
I remember going to... I remember it was the night before Easter, because my cousin and I were late for Easter service, that sunrise service the next morning. I'm pretty sure we were doing triple digits trying to get there.
So you got
triple digits on the speed, not the blood alcohol content.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, who knows about that?
And then, so Iowa State, 2008, graduate.
2009.
2009, agronomy, get married, and you move back home, or you just take a job somewhere, or what do you do?
So while I was at college, I lived on campus for a year, and then in Slater, and then Elkhart, and then back to Slater. And then right after, I got a job it was a hybrid role. I did several internships, one with Pioneer, one with Heartland Co-op, bouncing around doing different agronomy things, and I got a role with Heartland Co-op and Helena Chemical. It was kind of weird. I worked for 2 different companies, one salary. So they kind of shared my role. Helena sells products to Heartland Co-op. They found out proprietary products like foliar feeds and all that kind of stuff has a lot better margin than selling just regular fertilizer or Roundup or your main chemistries. So they really wanted to push proprietary products within Heartland. That was my role. I was the proprietary product specialist. Learned a lot. Met a bunch of great people. I was only there a year and decided I really want... I through my internship with Pioneer, that's where I really wanted to go. They just didn't have a role open for me after college. Pioneer likes to hire people that are already trained and not waste money on you, training you and getting you to the point. But a role opened up in north central Iowa, and I took that and I ran their impact testing in north central Iowa for them. And my future wife, Rachel, and I moved to Webster City. She went to nursing school in Webster City because it was a 2-year wait list at DMAC or Mercy in Des Moines.
Really?
To become a nurse.
How could there be a wait list when now we know that there's a shortage of nurses? Is that a shortage because we didn't have the people to educate them and train them? I mean, if you think about the funnel,
yeah,
you got to start wide at the top with all these candidates.
Yeah, it could be. And, I know. So it might have been a little bit shorter to get into Mercy because that was like a more of a private program. And then you had DMAC, which was the public option. The public option, I know it was 2 years out. Mercy maybe a year or something, but you also had to pay 2x what you would have at DMAC. So Iowa Central Community College in Webster City, Fort Dodge, got her in up there, and so it worked out great. We had a little townhouse up there and close enough to come back and still help farm on the weekends, but was definitely getting the itch to come back to farm in 2013 and get back down here. And that hour doesn't seem that far until it's like I just need to go work for a couple hours.
Right.
So.
Right. Cool. So now on your farm, you and your dad are involved. You kind of hinted that you're going to try and get your brother to come back. Mm-hmm. With that side of things, what kind of roles are you guys falling into? How would you describe that to someone who doesn't know your relationship?
I think every situation is different, and ours is weird even so. I mean, so the way I came back to farm was in 2013. I was literally about ready to take another role within, it was DuPont at the time, and get closer to home with that. But the day before that interview, an auction came up and with a hog site. So full circle here. Didn't think I could be in animal science, and here I am staring at a hog site.
Auctions bring everybody together.
As a possibility.
That's how you guys met. Yeah. That's how you're coming back home.
Yep. So as a possibility to come back and farm. And we ran the numbers and ran the numbers and ran the numbers, and Tanner wasn't around to run his numbers.
Yep.
And
I actually had clients bidding on that same hog site. I was just out of market.
Yep. And so we probably paid too much for that, but it cash flowed and did a big remodel on the place, came back. But the dynamics of our farm, Dad still lives on the farm, Mom and Dad. He's 63, and I know he's wanting to slow down a little bit. Grandpa was up and Grandpa's still alive. Grandma's still alive. Grandpa was still active in the farm up until 5-6 years ago. He had some back issues, then got in a car accident. Someone rear-ended him and just has had a slow recovery, but still loves to come around. Our dynamic is I take care of the hogs. I also sell seed, and Dad, it's funny. Dad's slowing down, but he's still one of the best operators around as far as equipment goes. I've gotten bombarded this year. We do a little custom spraying on the side, and everyone wants Dad to spray their field. Just his attention to detail, and very good. Doesn't run too much down, so that's good for him to stay in there. And I'm kind of the workhorse and the grunt when I can be.
Which I would argue that might be a little bit backwards-ish for most operations. Maybe I'm wrong. The older generation aren't as much the operators as they are more the directors.
I think when it comes to the combine, a lot of times the older generation is.
That's true. Yeah.
But like as far as sprayer and all that kind of goes, and the reason why I like him in there is because he does a good job. But then I know he's not. I mean, so we kind of call him like the bionic man. He's had 2 knees replaced, 2 shoulders replaced, his back fused in several places, neck fused, ankle fused, wrist surgery. Like, he's just, farming's hard on a guy.
I expected you to stop after the third one, and you kept going.
And so when he won't not do something. So if he's down and we're mixing 6 products into the trailer to get up into the sprayer, you're up and down, up and down.
BW Fusion product?
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much BW Fusion, if you're using their stuff, they should send a guy with you to help mix it all.
Really? Okay.
There's a lot of chemistry going on there. So, yeah, so we got a unique relationship there. And hoping to bring my brother back. So he went to Iowa State in ag business. Him and I are not the same person, which is really, up until probably 5 years ago, I figured if you were brother and sister, you probably were pretty similar.
Totally different.
That
my kids are different, as well as me and my sister. Completely different
opposite
careers.
And so I'm hoping, and Dad's very analytical, and so my dad and my brother actually line up a lot more, and I'm more outgoing and,
social.
Yes. Want to try new things and that kind of stuff. And so I'm hoping to bring Austin back as my dad's role in the office. Mm-hmm. So, because Dad does most of the office work now for the farm. I do mine for my own, but like I said, I'm small potatoes. So, hoping to bring him back there.
Small spuds.
STF.
Look at this.
Yep.
We got the connection potatoes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You were the Moorhead spuds, and he's small potatoes.
We were the Comets. The North Polk Comets.
Yeah.
So, which
was a shooting star your mascot?
it was a comet.
I get that. But
Yeah, it was like a fiery ball with a big trail.
I do a charity auction for them now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Full circle.
But we're now in the Ballard School District, and I imagine we'll stay in that. And even if we're not, we're probably open and roll if we can.
yeah.
So, which North Polk is North Ankeny now. It's not the same when you go back to it at all. It's going to be a 4A school before we know
Right.
it.
So that brings
cool.
you up to 20.
Now.
How old are you? 5?
Coming back to the farm?
33.
33.
All right.
As I was going to say, when I came back to the farm, I was 26, 25, something like that. So,
So
2013.
seed salesman, agriculture all the way through, egg lazy for your major, and then married kids, no divorces, no adoptions.
not yet.
We're ready. We're ready for the future.
Uh-huh.
What does grown-up Corey want to do?
That's a good question.
Professional podcast host. I can just
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
like
a pretty,
what we're doing.
It's a pretty glamorous
I
role.
like
It
what
is,
we're
I mean-
doing on the podcast. I mean, Tanner and I had a conversation in 2017. I know we were texting back and forth. That's probably when we really started talking. The sale was probably 2014 that we were at, and then it was 2017 that we actually were texting back and forth and thinking about doing business together. And we talked about doing a podcast, so it's kind of fun to see that come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Future me, I don't know. It'd be really easy to say want to just grow the farm and make that better, but I don't know if that's in the cards for us. I mean, we are in a unique area around the Des Moines metro that really handcuffs us. We cannot grow south, and we cannot grow south and west at all, and west is hard because of the rivers there. It can be done, but so we only have basically 2 directions we could go if we really wanted to expand, and it's a lot of old money, it's tough down here. So I don't know if do we do better with what we have? I've seen a lot of these farmers on the edge. They're still farming, don't get me wrong, and they're doing well doing that. But that's not the stress anymore. Now they're just real estate.
Yeah, you got to get in there, though, because 82% of farms are paid for, Tanner. And the average age of the person that owns farmland is in that Korean War era to baby boomer generation. And you're young enough, you'll outlive them all. So I think patience is something we all need.
We're not dumb to the fact that, our ground is worth more because we know it's coming. Mm-hmm. We're not on the edge of we're not the $60,000 ground stuff. But shoot, we're seeing stuff. You're seeing stuff that's not even close to being developable for what, 16, 17,000 an acre?
18 last week.
So, I mean, yes, we have value there. It's what you do with it and plan for what's coming, I think. The thing that's hard right now to compete is the people that are selling and then coming out, and they can pay whatever for stuff around you. So if anything were to come out.
Correct. They're saving themselves on capital gains tax, by reinvesting it. So
Can't blame them one bit. You would love to be in the same position.
yeah,
It just sucks when you can't
right.
physically. Well,
Yeah,
how do they make that cash flow? Well, it doesn't matter.
Might be do a better job with what you got, like you were saying. I'm in the same boat to where, do you go bigger, better, stronger and try and cover 9 states, or do you just be the best doggone guy you can locally?
Yep. And I tried the better with what we got thing with the Aroni berries.
Yeah.
That was a 15-acre trial, and believed in it, got on the board with that and all that, and it's just really like getting kicked in the gut when you're down.
Yep.
It's like makes you not want to stick your neck out anywhere else. It's easy to say that when corn's $5.
Yeah, and all the stories that you hear about successful people, they take those
Chris.
challenges, those risks, and those failures, they build upon them,
Yep.
and now you know what to look and consider more in depth when you take your next adventure on.
The best thing that we probably did doing that Aroni berry thing was my grandpa he was all interested because my dad and I were literally excited. And people could tell the excitement around us, how we talked about it. We knew the numbers. It was going to be this. You just had to have a little bit of faith that the market was coming. But we believed in the science behind it. Grandpa wanted to invest. And I just said no. If I can't do it with our money that we have in the bank, obviously Tanner's not going to give me money for Aroni berries.
I know,
He doesn't,
right?
Yeah, he
He
doesn't
didn't
know what
believe in
those
that.
things are. But if I didn't say no to that, if I couldn't do it myself, I didn't want to do it. Because it was too risky. It wasn't your corn and soybeans. It wasn't your hog barns. So, yeah.
Not to be too philosophical, but this came up on my Facebook feed, and I even saved it this morning.
Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. C.S. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much that I save every once in a while. I save that one. So
Yeah. So,
Nice.
that's the life of Corey.
Yep.
And that's all the time we have.
And that's all
Thanks,
the time.
listeners.
Yeah.
We really enjoy you hanging out with us this week. Oh, wait.
We have to split this into 3 episodes.
Yeah, no.
So we go on to Banker Tanner.
Yeah, so most people don't know that he was maybe the one that kind of totally driving force behind the podcast to start with, and contacted me with equipment, and we put equipment together, and he had already previously talked with you about starting a podcast, and then lo and behold, we all 3 get together down the road, but Tanner's still the glue that holds the podcast together weekly for every listener, that writes the schedule and books the Zoom meetings and gets
He does all the work.
a lot of people lined up. We just show up and drink beer.
So
right?
having a podcast, from what I've learned in my last year here, is the microphone part is the easy part. Everything else happens before and or after the show, and it is 5-10 times more work than it is recording it, and that's all Tanner. So we're very thankful for that he still does that. So let's
and then the video, and then the editing afterwards, in case there's a wrong word said, something needs cut out. He can make it sound sexy. And
Right.
Let's go back. You grew up in Northwest Iowa, so where were you from? How many siblings? What's going on?
All right, about me. Yes, Northwest Iowa, Cherokee County. So if you're looking at the counties, it's 2 over and 3 down. Grew up there on a farrow to finish hog farm with corn and soybeans as the row crops. A big majority of the corn that we raised was fed to the hogs. So a very small marketing opportunity for us on the crop sides, pretty much the soybeans that were done. But we used almost all the manure. Well, we did use all the manure that came off that farm, put it in there as natural fertilizer on the ground. So went to a small school. At the time, it was the Aurelia Bulldogs. So I would say out of all the mascots, I by far have the best mascot, besides a shooting star and a potato. But
No, I don't know, like rock, paper, scissors, though. I think the Comet's going to win.
I don't know. I still think the Bulldogs was better, but the high school doesn't exist anymore. It's now merged. It's now the Alta Aurelia Warriors. So I was in there in a period when it was by itself. I graduated with 31. Did not have a very big. That's not true. I graduated with 30. I had a class of 31. So very small.
Someone didn't graduate?
That's correct. Not on time.
they didn't die, did they?
No, just not on time. They didn't graduate on. They didn't walk across time.
I was like,
when we walked
wasn't
across
one of those
time.
high school stories where you wreck your car and one person died? All right.
My
No.
class was 72, if we're going to compare that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yes, I was one.
2,400.
Oof.
2,400 in your class?
I think there was. Yeah.
In Montana?
No, Minnesota.
Remember, he went as a spud in Moorhead.
Oh, yeah.
It was a big number.
Yeah. But yes, I was one of 3 kids. So Dave's the baby, Corey's the middle child, and I'm the oldest. So I have 2 younger sisters.
Wait a minute. Your brothers are Dave and Corey?
No. I was thinking that too. I was like, what? Okay.
No, so as in David, you were the baby of your family.
Okay.
Corey, you were the middle child of your family.
Mm-hmm.
I am Tanner. I have 2 younger sisters.
I got
He's
you.
the
Okay.
oldest.
Audrey and Gracie. So I'm the oldest. So that might be why that we have the diverse personalities that we do, because you've all heard of the middle child syndrome and how whiny the babies in the families are, and then the sheer
Astute.
wisdom,
Yeah.
strength, well, all the other good positive words around being the oldest.
Yep.
So yes, had 2 younger sisters, 4 years and 6 years younger than myself. Ironically, they now live. One lives in Huxley, in the same town that my wife and I live in, and the other lives in Ankeny. So we have all migrated down from northwest Iowa to central Iowa. My parents are
So what
still...
migrated you down here? You went to
Yep.
school, didn't you?
That's correct. So I was in a class of that size. You played all the sports. You did all the things. And during my high school years, I had a buddy of mine that had older siblings, and they had taken on the responsibility of mowing a cemetery. During that time period, his older siblings graduated. He needed extra help, a.k.a. someone to weed eat around all the headstones. Joined up with him. We had a mowing and landscaping business. During that process, we got to do a landscaping project at the bank president in town at their house. So did that, spent some time there, got to know the guy a little while. Come to find out that he was the president of the bank my parents banked at. So the last semester of my senior year, we had a career discovery class, which was usually just meant to make your senior video for your graduation party and then screw off, but you had an internship. And so I was an internship at the local bank. Turned out I liked it. So didn't know where I was going to college, didn't know what I was doing, had applied a lot of different places, was getting ready to go play baseball. One of the things that I really enjoyed doing at another school, and fell in love with finance and banking and chose a business school called AIB College of Business in Des Moines, Iowa. So that's what got me down to central Iowa, was going to AIB. My claim to fame is I don't have a high school anymore and I don't have a college anymore.
So they went out of business.
Because AIB, the business school, couldn't run their own damn business.
Isn't AIB now Iowa?
No, it's nothing now.
Okay.
The building is.
I believe the University of Iowa was a way for the college to save face, so they could technically donate it and write it off tax-wise instead of just posting themselves a negative margin.
Yeah.
But so went down and got my bachelor's in business administration and financial services through AIB. Did that in 3 years. What a type of program that allowed you to get work experience while you're doing that. So you only had classes 4 days a week. Started working at the bank in the afternoons, Fridays, and Saturdays. So started my banking career early on. And truly in the banking world, years of experience matters. It doesn't, truly, but everything says, hey, and you have to have 10 years banking experience. It doesn't matter if you're a teller. They want you to have 10 years banking experience because a lot of things are just through exposure.
It's kind of like a stock rocker said, I don't care if you think you're going to truck, go start a trucking company.
That's true.
Even if you're not trucking for insurance purposes.
Yep.
So you have years of experience, even if you're not on the road.
Right. Huh. So through that, I've done everything. Literally, I've done everything in the banking world. So I've been a teller. I've been a teller supervisor. I've been a receptionist. I have been a personal banker. I've been a branch manager, assistant branch manager and a branch manager. I've done mortgage loans, and now I'm in commercial and ag lending. I did that by way of being an assistant to the chief credit officer, and then a credit analyst, and then a junior lender, and then climbed the rest of the titles. So now senior vice president, making loans guy, had a couple staff of my own at Vision Bank, and put them to work, continue to try and help deliver some good loans out there into the world of agriculture and business, and help them succeed. So
didn't you start, was it Adel?
So I was, first job I had at a bank was in Clive. So kind of migrated my way out west. So Clive, and then Waukee, and then Adel. My wife and I.
You want to say, where'd you meet your wife?
Yep. So I met her at AIB. And so I hit her in the face with a volleyball. That was after a fact. Let's see. We got to go back to the beginning. So my wife was in a relationship, long-term relationship before me. Thankfully, that guy was a goofball, so I didn't have to have very high expectations to exceed. But my balcony, my dorm was third level with a balcony over the parking lot, and I could always sit out there and drink beer and watch the people that went home on the weekends come back. And she came back with flowers one day. I'd always had my eye on her, and I said, wow, that guy must have really screwed up this time. She goes, yep, and for the last time.
Oh,
So you were watching out a balcony.
Sitting on my
You
balcony.
were watching.
Yeah.
Creeping.
It gets even better because I didn't know her name. Had to ask my buddy to look her up, to what her name was, so I could look her up on Facebook, send her a Facebook Messenger. We went for a walk, and then the rest was history. But during that courtship time period, I started showing off in intramural sports, and I hit her in the back of the head or the face, one of those in sand volleyball. Like I jump served, hit that thing as hard as I possibly could, and it went right into her head. So, but yes, met my wife. Her family also farms, so they are a fat cattle feedlot and row crop operation here in central Iowa. So when we were in Adel, we started doing some family planning. You talked about that hour drive from Webster City seemed like a long time.
Yeah.
We didn't like being the first ones to leave every family gathering and the last ones to show up because it was an hour and 30, almost an hour and 25, 30 minutes from Adel to the farm. And we knew that wasn't going to work for a set of babysitters. I was still mowing. I carried that mowing business down for 9 years through high school, mowed a lot of foreclosed houses in the Des Moines area during that 07, 08, 09 period, and kept that going, doing a lot of landscaping projects on the weekend while I was still in banking, and knew we were going to have somebody to watch the girl. Well, we didn't know it was a girl at the time, but our kids as we put that together. And just as we had made that decision, recruiter called and said, hey, there's this bank up in Ames that needs somebody just like you.
Just like you.
And they got me. That's kind of how that portion went.
I was going to say it shows Allie's taste in men. She was dating a goofball, and then she got you.
Yep, and an even bigger goofball. Absolutely.
What's Allie do?
My wife works for a legal insurance company. So you'd think of your doctor network. So if you go and you have health insurance, and sometimes you have doctors that are in network or out of network, if you have her benefits program, they have attorneys that are in network and out of network. So if you get in a car accident and need someone to defend you, if you have their insurance products, then they've got set rates times people that will do everything. So, for example, if you're in her program, you get a will made for free because that's like going to get your physical done. They just have certain things like that. So she's client manager there, manages quite a book of business, and takes care of things that way.
She went back to school, right? Got her master's?
Yep.
Yeah, she wears the pants.
She's a smart one in the family. Absolutely.
She wears the pants.
I think that's almost the same in all of our relationships.
Mine wears scrubs. But yeah, they usually have the final say.
Yeah.
Or dictate my decision quite a bit, I guess.
At least our schedules, right?
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yep.
I'd never met your wife, Corey, until you pulled in with the, and I didn't really even meet her.
Oh,
then.
yeah, and I was like, hey, why don't you say hi to Dave? And she was just not having it. She's pretty antisocial. It was hot that day, and you were in pants and a dark shirt. It was like 95 degrees.
Hot day.
And I was working outside
Yeah, I
on
was
a
like,
ladder.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
So you got Northern Iowa, came to Des Moines, Central Iowa. Now you're set. So 2 kids. Did you adopt as well?
So we do not have any adopted kids currently. My wife and I are licensed in the state of Iowa for foster care and adoption. So we've had a couple of foster kids through our house, fulfilled our duties in that process. We still maintain that adoptive license. We're open to opportunities if and when those show up. Has been a very eye-opening experience. It was kind of one of those where we had our 2, we had no troubles, very thankful with that process, but knew that we had a spot, a place that we could do something a little bit more. And thankfully, we've had a couple opportunities to do that. We're very selective. For those that don't know a lot about the process, you get asked for willingness to take in a placement with very little information, and we've got some very strict rules that fit well with our family. That's the number one rule in foster care is know your own family.
Yeah.
So for me, with a 7 and a 5-year-old daughter, we have certain limits. No boys at this time, and certainly really take a close look at older children. I mean, just one of those things to where it has to be one that you're comfortable in as a family. Otherwise, it won't be successful for that kid. And ultimately, that's the focus.
I can't imagine. I mean, it's such a large thing for you guys to do that as humans. Some days I feel like we can't even get our family, to school on time or, and that kind of stuff. And then to throw one that's completely different and typically coming in from a not so good situation.
Right.
That's a big thing of you guys. So,
Yeah.
congrats.
It's crazy. I didn't really grow up in agriculture and married into it. So, wife in agriculture. You were in agriculture. Your wife was not.
Yep.
And you were in agriculture, and your wife is in agriculture somewhat.
Yep. I picked mine out of the plat book.
Yeah.
But we're all tied to agriculture, rural America in a different way. But how much do you think Iowa had to do with that?
Oh, I think there's a lot. I mean, the biggest statistic you hear people saying is kids are so many generations removed from farms.
Yeah.
But I would argue in the state of Iowa, there is much less fraction of the population that doesn't know what a combine is. It doesn't know what corn and soybeans are. Now, there's still going to be people that ooh and ah over the Busch Light Combine in the Ankeny Prairie Fest or Prairie Ridge, whatever that place is called, because they've never seen one up close. Mm-hmm. They'll tell you that, oh, that something's out in that cornfield. They might not know it's combine, but they're gonna have seen it driving by on the interstate.
Yep. So did you never have a want to go back to the farm and farm your family's ground?
Yeah, and this was a very
all bankers own farm ground. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, but to go back and farm. I mean, growing up, did you want to go back and farm, or how did that work?
So it was very eye-opening. I was at the age to where I absorbed a lot of what was going on in our family when the hog markets were not great. And I made a vow to myself, a personal vow, that I would have some type of a career that guaranteed me a paycheck so I would know where my personal living expenses were going to come from. I didn't like the stress, the positions that I saw that it had put my family in, right or wrong. That was just something that I had observed because, Dad built a brand new gestation barn in 1998. So if everybody knows the hog,
that's right when it was
cycle.
Bad.
Correct. And then you also went through 04, 05, 06 when I was in an age that was very observant of what was going on around me. And that I joined that mowing crew with my buddy. It was almost out of necessity for another set of income there. So that was the first thing that put me into wanting to go into banking. I purposely went into ag lending because I can't leave agriculture behind. Yeah. I was burnt out on the livestock side. That was my job on Saturdays, is to grind feed until all the feeders were full. I was the one that took care of a majority of the deads, the stillborns, the afterbirth, the jobs that I could do at a young age that needed to be done that didn't require management type decision making. And a lot of that burnt me out early on. So for me to say I have a desire to go into livestock operation, I really don't. Yeah. But for us then, it was so much fun on the row crop side. You didn't get to the field until the afternoon because you had pigs to process or castrate or breeding, or you had to wean. Something along those lines always took up the morning. So it was a reward to get to go to the field. So I still spend hours in a semi, a tractor, whether it's grain cart, sometimes combine each fall for both families. Because I love that. But it just wasn't going to be feasible, especially with two younger siblings. And even now, the farm would have to take a different route for me to go back and live off of it, support another income.
But you have some ownership in the farm.
Correct. So my wife and I, I have ownership in the hogs that are running through. So mom and dad quit to Farrow to Finish in 2016, and since then have just finished hogs. And my wife and I have ownership in those that go through the barns. So do have that connection side of it, which when I just get done saying I didn't have any interest in the livestock side, no, but the numbers are my thing. That's
you didn't have interest in the hands-on.
Correct.
Which pigs in general would burn someone out. And then you throw the farrowing side of it. Yeah. And I got just a small glimpse of that. I thought I could grow my own show pigs, Berkshire show pigs, my first year out of high school. So I had 6 gilts, and gilts not going to be great, and it was just terrible. Tried doing it outside, lost most of them. It was absolutely terrible, and I'm like, I don't know how anyone does this.
Yeah. So you're senior vice president. Where do you go from here?
The next would be market president level. So this summer, I started the Masters of Banking program. Basically, the next step up to becoming a president of the bank. So I guess if we turn the question on myself of what does grown-up Tanner want to do, I think I've got that vision, that dream to run my own bank, as in not own the bank, but be the top person someday to make that call. And whether that is something I do until retirement or I do until I can afford to farm on our own, whether that's through family dynamics or opportunities that present themselves. I'm never going to get away from the agriculture side, but that's where I see things going. That's where I'm going education-wise. So I'll have 3 years of that ahead of me before it's officially done, but we'll take advantage of any opportunities available to be the man in charge.
Do you know that the best ag land realtors were previous bankers in a previous life? I'm just saying.
Do you think
Dave wants me to retire and sell land?
Do you think that's just because of their connections? Or
Yes, relationships. Yeah. It's a service business with relationships, and once they realize that everybody hates bankers, then they move to real estate.
Jeez, what am I going to do when I realize that at such a young age?
What's it take to own a bank? Like if we wanted to start a bank right now, like Farm4Profit Bank, what would that take?
It's like $10 million, isn't it?
Well, right. To start a de novo in the state of Iowa, it's supposed to take $10 million in pledgeable assets. So that could even be $10 million in farm ground. But you could start that up with a pool of investors. For example, the bank I work for right now started out as Ogden State Bank, and it was a whole bunch of locals in Ogden that put their money together to open their bank, and then they expanded to Boone and then Ames and grew from there. So you could start with a group of people putting money together or other assets that you can pledge. Ultimately, the banking regulation wants you to make sure that if someone else deposits their money with you, you have something that they can liquidate in order to give their money back when they come to withdraw it.
So we could Venmo enough money from all our listeners to start a Farm4Profit bank if we had 10 million Venmo?
Yes, so we would need $1 million for each of our 10 listeners.
It's got to be each. It's not, okay.
Well,
we can have 10 million people give $1.
Right, but we don't have 10 million listeners.
Oh,
we have
shoot.
10 listeners.
Interesting.
Was that a bad joke?
They're big hitters. They're big hitters.
They're big hitters. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about me. We're here now. The podcast, kind of like you had mentioned, Dave, has been a collaboration, and I truly think that that's what has made our podcast as successful as it has been. Is we have three very unique perspectives, but we have also 3 very unique ideas that have kind of melded into one that put this together. Corey and I had started our text messages early on to get this put together. Dave had and still has the experience on the audio side. Obviously his role is instrumental in making sure that we sound good, look good. And then Corey, I think, doesn't get enough credit for how creative he is as a person.
And the guest side. I think Corey has brought in a ton of social guests.
There's a lot more traction with people when you're not a banker.
Yeah.
When a banker asks you if you want to be on a podcast, you're like, what? With a banker?
Yeah. I was going to say, Tanner does the outline. I have the building and then the storage and the place where we do it. So more the real estate side of the world. And then Corey, I always think, brings the best content and guests.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm just happy you guys let me stay on. You had me and never let me leave. So
that's right.
Nice.
And we're not going to until you stop showing up.
And we all live pretty local. We're not too far.
Yeah.
And so...
Family's all about the same age. Kids about the same age.
Corey's, you're the youngest?
Yeah.
Out of us?
5 and 1.
No, I mean just out of us here.
33.
I'd be the oldest.
Wait, no,
Tanner's the baby of this group.
Because you already turned 33?
Yeah, February.
Man, I am the baby.
So Tanner's the youngest. David's the oldest. Corey's
I think
in the
I'm 33. I don't know. I forget my birthday like every year.
I was born in 88.
Yeah.
You also were born in 88?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There you go. Well, cool. Well, this isn't, like I said, what we had planned for an episode, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was kind of fun being able to tell our own story, get a little more in-depth. Got to give a shout out to the Beers in the Shop guys for kind of putting us on to an idea like this. And thank you, listeners. You've been asking for a long time. We didn't know exactly what kind of format to put it in.
Yeah.
So keep those suggestions up. We've got another episode that's coming up. It was a listener suggestion. We can't wait to record that one. I'm super excited because I think it's going to be extremely helpful. I think it's going to help on a lot of different levels. It's going to be fun to get back into our format of doing a profit show and a fun show. So we will.
So was this technically a profit show?
This was the end of our SummerFun series.
That's what it was. Hell, we didn't even drink today.
Yet.
But
yes, thanks again, listeners. Don't forget to check out BW Fusion, Kimberly Ag, Gearinghoff,
I'd say
Estes Concaves, everybody that supports us.
Like, rate, review, but more, ask questions. If you have questions about us, now I'm curious. Like, what are our listeners going to wonder? about our story, I'm guessing they're going to have more questions.
That's true. We just kind of teased him. We didn't get to go extremely in depth, but that could be another little segment each episode.
Ask about Dave's his other businesses.
Oh my!
Oh,
They're going away. We're reducing them.
Yeah, but it's a good story. Then it's a really good story. Just
Awesome.
mainly in the name.
perfect. All right, Corey. Let's send him out.
There you go. Crack that bush light. Yeah, that's nice and cold. You deserve it.
Intro music recorded by Tyler Rickton and the High Bank Boys. Commentary added by Elena Montemagni. And credit to bensound.com for music.